What's up, everybody? Welcome back to No Breakaways, your source for all the Zwift racing tips and tricks. We're back, season 3, race number 5, the one I know everybody's been waiting for, 5 laps of the Cobbled Climbs. This is going to be an incredibly difficult week. We have 10 intermediate sprint points, tons of points up for grabs this race. It's going to be really interesting, really fun to see. Shout out to Martin over at WTRL for answering my emails about the intermediate sprint points right away. I really appreciate that and everything that you guys are doing for us here in the Zwift world. So let's get right into it and start breaking down this course. All right, jumping right into the Cobbled Climb course. This is going to be a tough one, like we talked about. There is a big downhill coming after the finish line, which we will cover in depth during the course ride. A and B has 5 laps or 46 kilometers, 675 meters of elevation gain, so quite a bit. C and D have 3 laps, 27.9 kilometers, 405 meters of elevation gain. So it's especially important to understand the intermediate point structure. First across the line is simply whoever crosses the line first through 10th gets 10 through 1 points. And the fastest through is whoever goes through that segment the fastest in the entire race, not each time around. So first place gets 20, second 15, third 10, fourth 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, on it goes. So we need to really take some time at the start of this video to understand those. So there are 2 KOM points on this course where you can get points. Libby Hill, 23rd Street. So again, with the fastest through, that's only the top 10 times for the entire course on those 2. Most likely that's going to be set on the first or second lap for both of those. And from there on, it looks like in the other races that I've looked at where they did Cobbled Climbs, they just kind of get slower every time. Maybe 23rd Street is faster on the last lap if somebody's trying to break away. But since there are 5 laps, that means there are 10 total times where you can get the first through intermediate points, which adds up to an absolute ton of points. So if we look at those first across the line, 5 times Libby Hill, 5 times 23rd Street, that means for the A and B, there are 550 total first across the line points. And for C and D, there's 330. That is enormous amount of points. It's so many points that most likely the winner of the race will have the most points come through first across the line bonuses. And of course, our fastest through segment, we have those 2, but then there are 146 points available. So making sure you craft your team strategy around getting these points is going to be, this will be the most important race for this that we've ever had. Also, this is one of the hardest races we've ever had. So I'm anticipating this entire race blowing apart. So if you can get in that first group, you're going to be getting those first across the line points every time because there's probably going to be only 10 or 15 people in that group. And every time they're going to be gunning for those points. So that first group is going to get an abnormally large amount of points this week. For the power-ups, we have the draft fan, the feather, and the arrow. We will talk about where to deploy those. The draft fan really doesn't have much of a place this week other than to potentially get you some rest and maybe for the sprint. The arrow will be able to use before 23rd Street. And the feather, of course, on any of these climbs is going to be a powerful weapon, but especially on Libby Hill and Governor Street, I think is where it may have the most impact. All right, here we go. I got to start out in the pens, so shout out to Zwift for making that change where I got to start in the pens instead of a random spot along the road. Made it much easier to get the distances for the course features. You're going to come out of the pens, you're going to take a right, and you're going to go through the start-finish banner. And you should be able to get a power-up basically right out of the gates. So that's going to be important in looking at the rest of this course and where you're looking to use that power-up. So here we are, we're almost a kilometer in, and you actually take this left-hand turn. I had apparently never ridden this course before, so it was the first time I got to take this left-hand turn. You're gonna take this down the street, and you take a left, and then you get a really nice downhill. It's gonna be really important. It's a very super tuckable downhill. It's a great spot to, you know, catch your breath, catch a rest, especially when you're tired after the hard efforts you're going to be making. I think your ability to super tuck and to hang in and save energy there is what's going to be the difference between, you know, you making it up those climbs at the back end or potentially not. So a very small thing to watch out for on the kink in the road here, it jets up to about 8%. It's a very small thing. It's not going to kill your race or anything, but you don't have to put a hard effort to catch up to the pack coming into the hard part of the course. So just make sure you're alert here. Shouldn't be a big deal. And I'm guessing as the race goes on, no one will even push it. But the first lap, I'm sure they will. Here we are coming up on Libby Hill. The start is just around this corner here. So let's take a look at the hill. Let's take a look at the Velo Viewer profile, and then we will have a special guest walk us through the hill. All right, Libby Hill KOM, 0.6 kilometers, 6.4% grade. The winner of the Libby Hill After Party Premier League race last year, one of the best women in the game, Jackie Godby, came on outside the draft. She's one of the hosts, and she took us through how to best ride this KOM. So instead of me boring you with me talking about it, I'm going to let Jackie do the talking. I'm going to clip that out. You can also see a link to the video above if you are interested in watching the entire episode. But having Jackie walk us through this is going to be amazing. Follow her advice to the T. You can go back and watch that Premier League race if you want to see her win.
So just heading into the climb, I actually love Libby Hill. I think it's almost, you go into it with a similar mindset as you go into the KOM, forward KOM as we did last week, but opposite. You're not going to plan on that reset halfway, and you're actually going to have to plan on back halving this hill because that's where the descent is. So you can see as we're hitting this hill, we've got 7%, 8% grade, but people are still taking this pretty conservatively. This isn't quite the 6% that you can draft up the Volcano KOM, but it's reasonable. You've got a little bit of time. This is not the beginning of the hill. Where this hill starts is going to be that second turn right. And this is where you lay it all out. Like, this is where you go for the gold, you go into pain territory, and you just say, I have nothing left. And every time I do this hill, I don't even see this turn because I'm just, I've hit that 14% grade and I've committed to getting through that arch no matter what, which you can do because there's a flat immediately after if you're doing, the loop, or if you're doing an after party like we'll be doing this week, you don't have to do anything afterwards. And you can really just sort of rest on your laurels. So, whereas forward KOM last week, we talk a little about punching early because that's the steepest part of the hill where you have a reset halfway through. Libby Hill is something you want to think about punching late. You want to think about that negative split and also what sort of power can I hold for that 70 to 90 second effort.
So after that amazing advice, let's take a look at these expected total times. I'm guessing the Cat A women, 115 to 135. And the thing about these times are, there's a huge spread on them this week. 115 is probably going to be the fastest through time. 135 is what I expect the top Cat A women to be going through at the end of the race. Looking back at some of these races where people did this course, they didn't go through faster every time. They tailed off quite a bit. Now, the last lap may be a little quicker, and of course there are first through points, but there's no way people are going to go through this at 115 every single time. So you're going to see it tail off as the race goes on. And that's the same for all categories, men and women. Cat B, 125 to 145, Cat C, 140 to 2 minutes, and Cat D, 205 to 230. You can see I expanded the range as it went down, especially for the women. And it does for the men too, but I don't have a good feel for that range, what it's going to be. There just weren't very many women's results, so take some of this with a grain of salt. For the men, Cat A, 56 seconds. That's probably your first time through. There's going to be one or two people who absolutely bomb this, but it looked like from the Oh My Crit at the end of March, with some of the absolute top guys in it, by the end of this 5-lap race, they were going through around 110, 111. Cat B, 110 to 130. Cat C 125 to 150, and Cat D 145 to 245. That one has a huge spread because I could not find any Cat D results for this race where there were multiple racers. So I took a really wide swing at this one. All right, so now we're over the top of the hill. You can see we're still on cobbles, so the CDA, the rolling resistance, is higher here. Lots of times, this is actually where the gaps form. People will stay hooked in on Libby Hill, and then they'll lose it over the top. There are going to be people all over this course on Tuesday. So expect the field to get shattered, and you're going to have to really be on your game. One of those things that you have to watch out for is staying on it over these flats. It is so hard to catch if you get caught alone after you've given a hard effort like up Libby Hill or 23rd Street. Make sure you are really focused on the top of the hill after you get over that, staying attached to the group, keeping the power down. Okay, the 23rd Street KOM, 0.3 kilometers, 10.2% grade. We're going to go through this in a lot of detail on the course ride, but this is a momentum hill. If you want to win this hill, get those first 3 points, if you want to get the fastest through segment, you need to be carrying more momentum than the rest of the field coming into the bottom of this hill. 23rd Street Hill is directly in front of us. We just came down Libby. And this is a momentum climb, meaning when you're at this point in the course, you actually want to be in the back of the pack. And that tree right up there directly ahead of us is where you want to start really going hard. So you're going to add a little bit onto this climb so that you slingshot past the pack as the road tips up around that corner. This gets you maybe an entire second up this climb. I have used this to huge advantage in some of my races. If you have an aero helmet, you want to use it right around here to get maximum slingshot effect. If you want to get fastest through segment here, if you want to get first across the line, you do it by slingshotting past your competition on the bottom of the hill. So your watts go to maximum speed in the least amount of time up this thing. What we're going to do, I'm going to show you one of my races that I did where I used this to really good effect. I just kind of stumbled on it when I did it. I figured I hoped it was going to work the way it worked, and it happened to, but it's a great example of how to do this in practice. Okay, I've just gotten onto my Super Tuck. You see, it's just coming up to 23rd Street Hill. I deploy my arrow power up right about here, and I'm able to come shooting through the field. I actually should have deployed my arrow a little bit earlier. But you see me come flying up through the field. I'm not putting out any more watts per kilo than anyone else around me. In fact, I'm putting out a little bit less. And you see that I got up to the very front of the field there. And I was really able to hold this. And in this case, there were no points over there. So I wasn't trying to go all out to win this. But if I would have been, that would have been a huge advantage. I could have kept the watts up higher. So that's about how you want to ride this 23rd Street Hill. So 23rd Street KOM, these times are absolute guesses. Really, this is just pretty much all out for about 30 seconds. Cat A women, probably between 27 and 32 seconds, depending on where you are in the race, what lap. Cat B, 32 to 37. Cat C, 37 to 45 seconds. Cat D, 45 to 55 seconds. And for the men, 24 to 27 seconds. I have seen faster times than that, but I'm not sure how repeatable going 13 watts per kilo up this is, if anyone will actually do that. Cat B 28 to 32, Cat C 32 to 37, and Cat D 37 to 45. All right, we've come down 23rd Street Hill. We had a little bit of flats, and right here at this intersection, this is where Governor Street Hill, at least in my mind, starts. I'm not sure where it actually starts, but this is where the road tips up. It goes to about 4%, gets up to 6% here. This is going to be one of the most difficult portions of the race. And this is actually a place, I think, if you're a climber, if you want to really try to blow the field apart, remember that the field has just had 2 incredibly tough climbs. Maybe this is a spot where you want to make it really, really hard and see if you can start a breakaway with a couple other people. Again, this course is going to have people all over the road. There's going to be small packs of 5 or 10 everywhere. So this may be a place, if you're with a front group or if you're with a group of 20 and you want to whittle that thing down to 10, that you might want to attack. Or on the flip side, if you are someone who just wants to sit in the group and try not to do work once you get to the top of Governor Street here around these corners, maybe you want to sit in and make sure that, you know, you're not pushing it at all off the front. Don't try to be a hero, especially with 3 or 5 laps. So what I'll do, I'll fast forward to the start finish line and we'll talk through that. All right, now we're coming into the finish. Something I want to point out, if you look at the right-hand side of the road, there's the 300-meter mark. Zwift has 300, 200, 100-meter marks on this course, so you kind of know where you're at. So right as we cross through here, we are about 220 meters out. So you'll want to be starting your sprint potentially right around 200 meters. This is one where, because it is a very slight uphill, it's a false flat, that some people might want to, you might want to start your sprint a little bit later than normal in terms of like how far you are away from the finish, because it does take a little bit longer than you expect. But you know, each lap there is no sprint through here, although you do get a power up. So there are 3 power ups per lap. So don't be stingy with your power ups. If you get an arrow on the first lap, don't think you're going to save it to the end. And then when you do finish this race, it's going to be a real long pull. And, you know, if you're a climber, maybe you want to try to get away on the lower slopes of Governor. And, you know, if you're a sprinter, maybe you want to just try to hang on to those climbers and hope you can beat them at the end. All right, my total expected times. The women's times are a complete guess. I was able to get the men's time from one of the Oh My Crit Saturday Smash races at the end of March. That had a lot of the top guys. There was a decent B field. The C and D, though, there wasn't much of a field. So all the women's times and the Cat C and D men are guesses. So for the Cat A women, it looks like probably between 65 and 68 minutes. Cat B, 69 to 75. Cat C, 50 to 55. Remember, Cat C and Cat D only have 3 laps, and Cat D, 55 to 60. I want to point out here that for both the men and the women, Cat A and B, the watts per kilo is actually pretty low compared to most of these races, and that's what we saw in that Oh My Crit race. The reason is you have 3 incredibly hard climbs and then a whole bunch of flatter downhill. So nobody does any work for most of it, and then there's 3 super hard sections where everyone uses all their energy. So you see the average watts per kilo being lower than most races, although the intensity of this race will be much higher. For the men, Cat A, 62 to 65 minutes, Cat B, 67 to 72, Cat C, 46 to 50, and Cat D, 49 to 55 minutes. Last but certainly not least, we have the feature distances. Here we have them in kilometers. I'm not going to read them all off for you because there's so many of them. But we have Libby Hill, 23rd Street, and Governor Street. I'll leave it up for just a sec in case you want to copy it or screenshot or whatever. Here's the same thing in miles. Again, I'll leave it up for a second if you want to take a screenshot. All right, so let's take a second and talk about bike choice. I think it's really tempting this week to try to get cute with your bike choice with all the climbing. It seems like a real climber's course, and it is a bit of a climber's course, but these climbs are very short. I ran the calculations, and the lightest possible setup that you could run, which is the Tarmac Pro with the lightweights, is only about 0.6, 0.7% faster than, say, the Tron bike up the up a climb, up the Alp. So if you look at these really short climbs, like on Libby Hill, at most you're going to save maybe 0.4 seconds. Up 23rd Street, like 0.1. Governor Street, maybe a second if you're being nice with it. So it's not really worth it to try to pick the lightest possible setup because you're going to sacrifice a lot of watts on the flats and you're going to give up a lot of watts in the draft. So I'm going to go with the same old boring stuff I say pretty much every week. If you have the Tron, ride the Tron. That's going to be the best option. The Canyon Aeroad 2021 with DT Swiss for lower levels. You could look at some of the Envy wheels. Again, go to Eric's bike choice, his sheet there. It is fantastic. You know, everything over at Zwift Insider is top notch. So yeah, that's the bike choice for this week. Sorry, it's a little boring. I wish I could have some cool bike choice for you or recommend a bike switch or something like that, but just the same old stuff. All right, everybody, that's the show for this week. 5 laps of the Cobbled Climb. Good luck to each and every one of you. If you like the show, please click like and subscribe below. I really appreciate it. And let me know in the comments what I can do better, what you liked, and maybe if there is any other topics that you would like to see discussed on here. See you next time.